The evening light cast long shadows across Willowbrook Elementary's freshly mowed lawn as parents in tailored suits and designer dresses filed through the entrance. Education and Business Connection Night. An event where Ethan Brooks felt painfully out of place. His worn blazer and hastily knotted tie marked him as different among the sea of affluence. 7-year-old Lily clutched his hand, her eyes wide with excitement despite her father's discomfort. A sleek black Mercedes pulled up, turning heads as Olivia Bennett emerged a vision in a fitted black V-neck dress, golden hair swept back, sunglasses perched atop her head. The air around her seemed to shift with authority. Moments later, a crash echoed through the hall. Lily had accidentally bumped into the robotics display. Olivia turned, her voice sharp as glass. Schools should control their students better. Ethan stepped forward, protective instinct flaring. If you're here to intimidate children, you're in the wrong place. Their eyes met recognition, dawning simultaneously. Ethan? Olivia? Time seemed to freeze as the past crashed into the present. 8 years earlier, the university campus had been their world. Ethan and Olivia walked hand in hand beneath autumn-painted trees, their laughter mingling with fallen leaves dancing in the wind. They were inseparable, the engineering prodigy and the brilliant computer science student who stayed up coding until dawn, fueled by cheap coffee and ambitious dreams. Their love had the earnest intensity of youth, filled with whispered promises under starlit skies and passionate debates about technology's future. Ethan's favorite photo of Olivia was taken during their study date at the old lighthouse, her golden hair whipping in the coastal breeze, her smile brighter than the sun-dappled waves behind her. It was the same photo he still kept hidden in his desk drawer, a memory too precious to display, yet too painful to discard. When the prestigious Reinhardt Fellowship chose Olivia for their international program, they'd spent one tear-stained night mapping out how they'd survive the year apart. "Distance means nothing when you've found your person," Olivia had said, pressing her palm against his. "We'll write every day. Technology keeps people connected, right? That's literally what we're studying. But life rarely follows careful plans." 2 months after Olivia left, Ethan's mother was diagnosed with aggressive cancer. Between hospital visits and picking up extra shifts to cover mounting medical bills, his replies became shorter, less frequent. His world contracted to hospital corridors and the exhaustion that followed him like a shadow. One night, after his mother finally fell asleep, Ethan found Olivia's latest letter waiting. The thought of explaining everything, of burdening her with his pain while she pursued her dreams, overwhelmed him. He tucked it away, promising himself he'd respond tomorrow. Tomorrow stretched into days, then weeks. Olivia's letters, once arriving like clockwork, slowed and eventually stopped. When she didn't return after the fellowship year as planned, Ethan convinced himself she had found better opportunities, better people, a life that no longer had room for him. Meanwhile, Olivia had interpreted his silence as the gentlest form of rejection, assuming he'd moved on during their separation. Pride kept her from showing up uninvited at his door, and fear prevented her from making the call that might confirm her worst fears. They both created stories about abandonment to explain their broken hearts, carrying those narratives like shields against future hurt. Standing in the elementary school hallway, they stared at each other, two people connected by a past neither had fully escaped. Lily looked between them, sensing the strange electricity in the air. The awkward silence broke when the principal approached, oblivious to the tension. "Miss Bennett, we're honored you could join us. Your education technology platform has revolutionized our STEM program." Olivia shifted her gaze from Ethan with visible effort, professional mask sliding back into place. "The pleasure is mine. Children deserve cutting-edge tools." Her voice softened as she glanced at Lily, regret flashing across her features. She knelt down, bringing herself to the child's level. "I'm sorry for speaking harshly. Accidents happen, especially around exciting inventions." The transformation in her demeanor surprised Ethan. This wasn't the cold CEO from moments ago, but a glimpse of the warm-hearted woman he once knew. Lily, never shy, studied Olivia with unfiltered curiosity. Her head tilted slightly, eyes narrowing in that way that always made Ethan nervous, his daughter's thinking face that inevitably preceded unfiltered honesty. "Your hair is really pretty," Lily said, reaching out to touch a golden strand that had fallen across Olivia's shoulder. "It looks like the picture." Olivia blinked, confusion crossing her features. "What picture, sweetheart?" Lily leaned closer, her voice dropping to a stage whisper that Ethan could still clearly hear from where he stood frozen behind them. "The one Daddy keeps in his special drawer. He thinks I don't know about it, but I found it when looking for tape." Ethan's heart hammered against his ribs. Of all the ways he'd imagined Olivia learning he'd kept her photograph, his daughter's innocent revelation hadn't been one of them. Lily continued, unaware of the emotional earthquake she was triggering. "Sometimes at night, when he thinks I'm asleep, he takes it out and looks at it for a long time. His face gets all quiet, and then he smiles, but not his happy smile, his sad but trying not to be sad smile." She demonstrated with remarkable accuracy, mimicking Ethan's expression of wistful remembrance. "Are you the lady in the picture? Daddy never tells me who she is." Olivia's composure cracked. A single tear escaped, trailing down her cheek before she could catch it. When she spoke, her voice was barely audible. "We knew each other a long time ago." Lily nodded sagely, as if this confirmed a long-held theory. "I thought so. Daddy's eyes got big when he saw you, like in surprise cartoons." She turned toward Ethan, unaware that he'd heard everything. The look on his face, vulnerable, exposed, told Olivia all she needed to know. The photograph had meant something. The memories had stayed with him too. More tears welled in Olivia's eyes, but she didn't wipe them away. They stood suspended in this moment of raw truth, neither knowing how to bridge the years between then and now. 3 days later, Willowbrook Elementary buzzed with excitement for its annual STEM showcase. Students proudly displayed projects they'd created using the Bennett educational software, Olivia's company's flagship product. Ethan arrived with Lily, who bounced with anticipation to show off her interactive storybook about space exploration. They hadn't seen Olivia since that first uncomfortable encounter, though her presence lingered in Ethan's thoughts. "There she is. Daddy." Lily pointed across the auditorium where Olivia stood surrounded by school board members. She looked every bit the successful CEO in a tailored blue pantsuit, yet Ethan noticed how her smile didn't quite reach her eyes. Throughout the evening, they navigated a careful dance of awareness, each always knowing exactly where the other stood in the room, without directly looking. After Lily's presentation received enthusiastic applause, Ethan was helping her pack up when Olivia approached. "Your daughter's project was exceptional," she said, addressing them both but looking mostly at Lily. "The algorithm she used to trigger story branches based on reader choices shows remarkable logical thinking for her age." Ethan smiled despite himself. "She gets her stubborn problem-solving from her mother." A flash of something, curiosity, disappointment, crossed Olivia's face before she recovered. "I was wondering if you both might join me for dinner to celebrate the success of tonight's showcase." The invitation hung in the air, unexpected and loaded with unspoken questions. Ethan hesitated. "I'm not sure that's please, Daddy." Lily interrupted, tugging his sleeve. "I want to ask Miss Bennett more questions about computers. She knows everything." Trapped between his daughter's enthusiasm and his own conflicted emotions, Ethan reluctantly nodded. Just this once. Olivia's relief was palpable. "Wonderful. There's a family restaurant just down the street, Antonio's. Nothing fancy, but the pasta is authentic." An hour later, they sat in a cozy corner booth, Lily chattering excitedly about her project, while Ethan remained mostly silent, watching Olivia interact with his daughter with surprising ease. A young man in a sharp suit approached their table, recognition brightening his face. "Miss Bennett, I didn't expect to see you here." He glanced at Ethan, taking in his casual attire with poorly disguised assessment. "Is your security detail waiting outside?" Olivia's expression hardened instantly. She stood, smoothly but firmly placing herself between the man and Ethan. Marcus. This is Ethan Brooks and his daughter Lily. Ethan is a systems engineer, not security. He's also the only man I've ever truly trusted. The weight of her words hung in the air. Marcus retreated with mumbled apologies, leaving an awkward silence in his wake. Ethan stared at Olivia, struggling to process what she'd just said. The only man she'd ever truly trusted? After all this time? Across the table, Lily's smile grew impossibly wide, her eyes darting between the adults with newfound interest. Something significant had just happened, and even at 7, she understood enough to know it mattered. Over the following weeks, Olivia appeared at Willowbrook with increasing regularity. Her official explanation monitoring the implementation of her company's educational software grew thinner with each visit that somehow coincided with Ethan's pickup times. They fell into a pattern of brief conversations that gradually lengthened, moving from polite small talk about Lily's progress to deeper discussions about their lives since university. Ethan learned that Olivia had built her educational technology company from a fellowship project into a multi-million-dollar enterprise, disrupting traditional learning models with adaptive AI systems. She discovered that after his mother's passing, Ethan had married his college acquaintance, Jessica, who became pregnant with Lily shortly after their wedding. The marriage had dissolved amicably when Lily was 3. With Jessica eventually moving to Europe for work while maintaining regular video calls with her daughter. One rainy afternoon, they found themselves sharing coffee in the school's empty library after a parent-teacher meeting ran late. "You've done an amazing job with Lily," Olivia said, watching raindrops race down the window. "She's brilliant, kind, and incredibly well-adjusted for a child who's experienced divorce." Ethan smiled, pride momentarily overshadowing his usual reservation. "She makes it easy, honestly. Some days I feel like she's raising me rather than the other way around." A comfortable silence settled between them before Ethan ventured into more personal territory. "What about you? No kids of your own?" Something flickered across Olivia's face, a shadow quickly masked. "No, never found the right timing, I suppose." She hesitated, then added quietly, "I was engaged once, about 3 years ago. Thomas. He was kind, stable, successful. Everything that should have made sense on paper." Ethan felt an unexpected twinge of jealousy. "What happened?" "I called it off 2 weeks before the wedding." Her fingers traced the rim of her coffee cup. "Everyone thought I was having cold feet or working too hard. My mother was convinced I was sabotaging my happiness out of some twisted dedication to my career." She looked up, meeting Ethan's eyes directly. But the truth was simpler and more complicated. "I just couldn't love him. Not completely. Not the way marriage deserves." The unspoken question hung between them. "Why?" Ethan gathered his courage. "Maybe because you never fully let go of someone else?" Olivia didn't answer immediately. When she finally spoke, her voice carried the weight of years of reflection. "We hold on to first loves differently, don't we? They become the measuring stick against which we judge every connection that follows." She didn't deny his suggestion. And somehow, that said everything. Autumn painted Willowbrook's campus in fiery hues as October deepened. For Ethan, the month brought not only falling leaves but falling barriers between his present and past. Olivia had become a fixture in their lives, attending Lily's soccer games, joining them for impromptu weekend lunches, even helping with particularly challenging homework projects. One evening, after Lily had gone to bed, Ethan was organizing her backpack when a small purple notebook fell out. He recognized her journal, a place she recorded her most important thoughts, as she called them. The book had fallen open to a recent entry, the large childish handwriting immediately catching his eye. "I wish someone like Miss Olivia could be my mom. She's smart and pretty and makes Daddy smile." His real smile again. Ethan stared at the words, heart pounding. He knew he should close the book, respect his daughter's privacy, but found himself frozen by the raw honesty of her wish. Lily had never expressed dissatisfaction with their family unit before. He'd thought their little team of two was enough. Apparently, she'd been quietly longing for something more. The next day, Olivia visited during Lily's lunch period, bringing reference materials for the third grade's coding project. They sat together at a tiny cafeteria table, Lily proudly showing off her notebook filled with colorful diagrams. "This is where I write all my important ideas," she explained, flipping through pages of drawings and notes. "Miss Garcia says I should keep track of my thinking process." Olivia nodded encouragingly. "That's excellent advice. The greatest innovations often start as simple notes in someone's journal." As Lily turned another page, Ethan recognized with horror the entry from the night before. He reached to close the book. But too late, Olivia's eyes had already fallen on the words. "I wish someone like Miss Olivia could be my mom." Time seemed to stop. Olivia's expression transformed from casual interest to profound emotion in an instant. She blinked rapidly, turning away as tears threatened to spill. Making a quick excuse about checking the time, she stepped away from the table. Ethan found her minutes later in the empty hallway, staring out the window, arms wrapped protectively around herself. "Olivia, I'm sorry about that. Kids say things without understanding." "Don't apologize," she interrupted, voice unsteady. "It's not your fault or hers." She took a deep breath. "I just don't know what to do with it. I don't know if I should step back or—" The unfinished sentence hung between them. "Or step closer?" Ethan supplied quietly. She nodded, still not looking at him. "I've built walls for 8 years, Ethan. Convinced myself that what we had was just intense, first love beautiful, but ultimately impractical. Then I see you with Lily, and those walls just—" She gestured helplessly. "I feel selfish even being here, inserting myself into your lives when I have no right to. And I feel selfish wanting you to stay," Ethan admitted. "Watching Lily light up around you, seeing parts of yourself you'd forgotten existed, it's confusing and terrifying and wonderful all at once. So what do we do?" Olivia finally turned to face him, vulnerability evident in her expression. Ethan had no answer that wouldn't risk the fragile balance they'd established. Winter descended with unusual sharpness that year. Frost patterns decorated classroom windows as Willowbrook prepared for its winter STEM fair, an event showcasing student achievements in science and technology. Olivia's company had sponsored new equipment for the school, earning her an invitation to present awards. The event garnered local media attention, educational reporters mingling with proud parents. Lily had been selected to demonstrate the third-grade virtual reality geography project. Her excitement was contagious as she practiced her presentation with Olivia the weekend before, Ethan watching from the doorway as two of his favorite people shared enthusiastic high-fives over successful code compilations. On the night of the fair, Lily stood nervous but determined on the small stage, explaining how students had mapped their neighborhood using coding principles. When she struggled with a technical glitch, Olivia instinctively stepped forward from the audience, gently guiding her through troubleshooting steps. The moment was captured by a freelance photographer. Olivia bent close to Lily, both their faces illuminated by the screen's glow, expressions mirroring intense concentration, followed by triumphant smiles when the program ran successfully. By morning, that innocent image had ignited a firestorm. The photo appeared on a local news blog with the caption, "Education Tech CEO uses schoolchildren for product promotion." The article insinuated that Olivia's involvement with Willowbrook was merely a publicity stunt using underprivileged children as props to boost her company's image. What began as local clickbait quickly spread across educational forums and business news platforms. By afternoon, speculation about Olivia's true motives dominated the comment sections. Half defended her company's long-standing commitment to educational access. The other half questioned whether her school appearances were calculated PR moves, exploiting vulnerable communities for corporate gain. Ethan discovered the controversy when another parent forwarded him the link with a message, "Isn't this your daughter with the CEO lady?" His blood boiled as he read the baseless allegations, the casual dismissal of what he knew was genuine care and connection. He was composing a blistering response when his phone rang, Olivia's name flashing on the screen. "Have you seen it?" Her voice sounded strained. "Just now." "It's ridiculous, Olivia. We need to set the record straight." A pause. "My board of directors has called an emergency meeting. They're concerned about perception issues." "Perception? This is absurd. I'll speak to the reporter myself. Explain that you've been mentoring Lily, that your involvement is personal." "Not no." Olivia's interruption was gentle but firm. "The board wants me to step back from public appearances at schools temporarily. Just until this blows over." Ethan gripped the phone tighter. "And you're going to let them dictate your personal relationships?" "I don't want you." Or, "Lily dragged into a media circus," she explained. "These stories have a way of spiraling. They'll start digging, asking why I've been spending time with one particular student and her father. They'll construct narratives neither of us wants made public." The implication was clear. Their tentative reconnection would become fodder for gossip columns, with Lily caught in the crossfire. Ethan wanted to argue, but found himself without counter-arguments that didn't sound selfish. "So you're just going to disappear again?" he finally asked. The hurt, evident despite his attempt to sound reasonable. Olivia's sigh carried the weight of impossible choices. "Just temporarily. Until the story dies down." But they both recognized the familiar pattern, forming good intentions, paving the road to another separation. The days following the media controversy stretched into weeks with no word from Olivia. December arrived with holiday decorations and end-of-semester excitement, but Ethan noticed Lily's dimmed enthusiasm. She stopped asking when they might see Miss Bennett again, but her eyes would hopefully scan the school entrance during pickup times. The silence between Ethan and Olivia felt eerily familiar, history repeating itself with new circumstances but the same fundamental miscommunication. Pride and uncertainty kept him from reaching out, even as he found himself checking his phone for messages that never came. Lily grew quieter, picking at her favorite foods and showing uncharacteristic disinterest in her coding projects. One night, after tucking her in, Ethan found her looking at a drawing she'd made of the three of them himself, Lily and Olivia, standing before what appeared to be a house with a swing set. "Do you think Miss Bennett forgot about us, Daddy?" she asked, her small voice piercing his heart. "No, sweetheart. Grown-ups sometimes have complicated reasons for staying away, even from people they care about. Like when Mommy moved to Paris for her important job." "Something like that," he said, smoothing her hair. "But it doesn't mean they don't think about you." After Lily finally drifted to sleep, Ethan sat at his desk, the familiar restlessness of loss settling over him. Almost unconsciously, he pulled open the bottom drawer, reaching for the photograph of Olivia he'd kept all these years. Beneath it lay something he hadn't looked at in nearly a decade, her final letter, still in its envelope, the paper now slightly yellowed with age. He'd never read it, too overwhelmed by his mother's illness and his own fear of rejection to face whatever goodbye Olivia had written. With trembling fingers, he carefully opened the seal, unfolding the pages covered in her distinctive handwriting. "Dear Ethan," it began, "it's been 2 months since I've heard your voice. 2 months of unanswered letters and unreturned calls. I keep telling myself there must be a reason, that something has happened beyond ordinary life getting in the way. The Ethan I know would never simply disappear without explanation." The letter continued, detailing her worry, her confusion at his silence. She described her fellowship coming to an end, her decision to accept an extended position. "I've been offered a place in the advanced program for another year. I told them I needed time to consider, to talk to you first. But your silence has become its own answer, hasn't it?" The final paragraph blurred as Ethan's eyes filled with tears. "Perhaps this is your way of letting me go, gently fading away rather than making a clean break. Or perhaps something has happened that I can't begin to understand. Either way, I'm left wondering if what we shared meant something different to each of us. If I've misread everything, If you're waiting for me to stop writing so you can move forward without the weight of my expectations, if that's what you need, I'll give you that peace. But know this, if one day I find my way back to you, if our paths cross again in this unpredictable life, I'll be looking for a sign, the smallest indication that you might still have room in your world for me. Because despite everything, despite this silence I don't understand, I've never loved anyone the way I loved you. Perhaps never will. Is it too late for us, Ethan? If I came back, would you still be waiting? A teardrop fell onto the final line, blurring the ink that had remained pristine for 8 years. All this time they'd both been carrying the same wound, each believing they were the one abandoned rather than the one who left. Morning light filtered through half-drawn blinds as Ethan made a decision. Arranging for his neighbor to take Lily to school, he drove across town to the gleaming glass headquarters of Bennett Educational Technologies. The receptionist eyed him skeptically when he requested to see Olivia. "Do you have an appointment, sir?" "No, but I need 5 minutes." "It's personal." "Please tell her Ethan Brooks is here." The woman's expression softened slightly at his sincerity. "Miss, Bennett is in budget meetings all morning. I can't interrupt, but I can let her assistant know you stopped by." Ethan shook his head. "I'll wait." And he did for 3 hours in the lobby, watching executives and developers stream in and out, ignoring curious glances and suggestions that he reschedule. Shortly after noon, the elevator doors opened, and Olivia emerged surrounded by suited board members. She froze mid-sentence when she spotted him, color draining from her face. "Ethan?" After quickly excusing herself from her colleagues, she approached him, confusion evident in her expression. "What are you doing here? Is Lily okay?" "Lily misses you," he said simply. "So do I." Around them, the busy lobby continued its rhythm of corporate life. But they stood in their own pocket of suspended time. "Can we talk somewhere private?" Olivia hesitated, then nodded, leading him to a small conference room with glass walls, but sound privacy. Once the door closed behind them, Ethan reached into his jacket, producing her letter fragile with age, wrinkled from his grip. "I never read this," he admitted. "Not until last night." Olivia stared at the yellowed envelope, recognition dawning in her eyes. "My last letter. The one you never answered." "I never answered any of them, Olivia. Not because I didn't care, but because my mother was diagnosed with stage 4 cancer 2 months after you left." The revelation hung heavy between them. Understanding transformed Olivia's expression. "You never told me." "I couldn't." His voice cracked with the weight of years-old grief. Everything was falling apart. Mom's treatments, the medical bills, working extra shifts just to keep our heads above water. Every time I thought about writing to you, explaining everything, I'd imagine you in your brilliant new life, surrounded by opportunities and innovation. The last thing you needed was to be dragged into my mess, to feel obligated to a boyfriend, drowning in problems. That wasn't your decision to make," Olivia whispered, tears gathering. "I would have come back. I would have helped. I know that now. But then, I convinced myself I was being selfless by letting you go. In reality, I was afraid you'd choose your career over coming back. Afraid you'd resent me if you did return. So I created a narrative where you'd moved on, where your silence confirmed what I already feared." Olivia shook her head, tears now falling freely. "And I convinced myself your silence meant you'd found someone else, that our relationship had been casual for you while I'd been all in. I was too proud to show up uninvited, too scared to hear you say you'd moved on." "We were both wrong," Ethan said quietly. "I didn't abandon you. I was drowning. And I didn't forget you. I was protecting myself." They stood in silence, the years of misunderstanding stretching between them like a physical presence, finally acknowledged. "Is it too late?" Olivia finally asked, echoing the words from her long-ago letter. "Too late for what?" For us to understand what really happened? For forgiveness? Ethan took a step closer. Or for something new? All of it. Any of it. Ethan reached for her hand. Tentative, but determined. It's never too late to start again. Not when you've carried someone in your heart for 8 years. Spring arrived with renewal, both literal and symbolic. Olivia's communications team had transformed the negative press into a narrative about authentic educational engagement, sharing carefully selected stories of her company's long-term commitment to schools like Willowbrook. But the true transformation happened beyond public view, in the careful rebuilding of relationships long thought lost. Olivia called a press conference not to discuss quarterly earnings or new product launches, but to address the persistent rumors about her involvement at Willowbrook Elementary. Standing before cameras and reporters, she spoke with calm conviction. I've spent my career developing tools to enhance children's learning experiences, but somewhere along the way, I lost touch with the very children we aim to serve. My time at Willowbrook wasn't about publicity or marketing. It began as professional curiosity, but became something deeply personal. She paused, taking a steadying breath. I'm here today to be transparent. I've been spending time with a particular student and her father at Willowbrook. Not for any corporate strategy, but because 8 years ago, that man was someone I loved deeply. Life and misunderstandings separated us, and fate reunited us in the most unexpected way. Murmurs rippled through the press room as she continued. I'm not sharing this for sympathy or to craft a romantic narrative. I'm sharing it because in business, we often hide our humanity behind corporate objectives. I'm in love with a single father whose daughter reminds me daily why our educational mission matters. There is no PR campaign here, just the simple truth that genuine connections matter more than strategic ones. The story caught fire, but not in the way cynics might have predicted. Rather than criticism, Olivia's honesty resonated with an audience tired of corporate doublespeak. People shared her statement across social platforms, applauding her vulnerability and authenticity. When Ethan, Olivia, and Lily appeared together in an educational video demonstrating coding concepts for elementary students, the comment sections overflowed with support. Their story became a touchpoint in conversations about second chances, about love transcending professional boundaries, about the unexpected ways life circles back to important connections. One viral comment captured the public sentiment perfectly. True love doesn't need titles or pedigrees. It just needs people brave enough to try again. Summer stretched golden across the city as Ethan worked late into the evening, stringing fairy lights across his modest backyard. Lily danced around him, placing mason jars with battery-operated candles along the stone path, her excitement barely containable. Do you think she'll like it, Daddy? Will she cry happy tears? Ethan smiled, adjusting the portable speaker system. I hope so, sweetheart. But remember, this is our secret mission. Inside, Lily had spent the afternoon decorating a lopsided chocolate cake, her first solo baking attempt with only minimal supervision. Second chance. Prom she had written in wobbly blue icing, surrounded by sugar hearts. The night held significance beyond what his 7-year-old could fully grasp. 25-year-old Ethan had missed taking Olivia to their university's senior prom, staying instead at his mother's hospital bedside during a particularly difficult night. It was a small loss in the greater tragedy that followed, but one that had always symbolized the beginning of their unraveling. At precisely 8 o'clock, the doorbell rang. Lily rushed to answer it, nearly tripping in the new dress she'd insisted on wearing for the occasion. Olivia stood on the porch, confusion evident on her face. She wore a simple white sundress, as Ethan had mysteriously requested, her hair falling in natural waves around her shoulders. Am I underdressed? She asked, noting Lily's fancy outfit. You said, casual dinner, at home. Before Lily could blurt out their surprise, Ethan appeared, wearing a proper suit for the first time since a colleague's wedding years ago. You're perfect, he said, offering his arm. May we escort you to the garden? Bewildered, but intrigued, Olivia allowed them to lead her through the house and out the back door. She gasped as they stepped outside. The small yard had been transformed, twinkling lights hanging from trees, a makeshift dance floor created from interlocking deck tiles, mason jar candles creating a pathway to a small table set for 3. "What is all this?" "It's prom," Lily announced proudly. "The one you and Daddy never got to have. I'm the chaperone." Understanding dawned in Olivia's eyes as music began playing softly, the same song that had been chosen as their university's prom theme all those years ago. "You remembered," she whispered. "I remember everything," Ethan replied. They shared cake first, laughing as Lily insisted on serving dramatically large slices and detailing exactly how many eggs went into her creation. After, Lily took her chaperoning duties seriously, directing them to dance while she watched from her official supervision chair, occasionally offering critiques on their technique. As the evening deepened and stars appeared overhead, Lily's energy finally waned. She fell asleep on the porch swing, wrapped in a light blanket, giving the adults a moment of privacy. In the gentle glow of fairy lights, Ethan took Olivia's hand, leading her to the center of their makeshift dance floor. "There's something I need to say," he began, voice low and serious. 8 years ago, when you wrote asking if I'd still be waiting if you came back, I never answered. Not because I didn't know the answer, but because I was afraid to admit how much I wanted it to be true." Slowly, he lowered himself to one knee, producing a small velvet box from his pocket. "The first time, I remained silent when I should have spoken. This time, I want to say it loud enough for both of us to remember forever." He opened the box, revealing a simple but elegant diamond ring. "Olivia Bennett, will you marry me? Will you help me raise Lily? Will you let me be part of your extraordinary life?" Tears streamed down Olivia's cheeks as she nodded, unable to speak. From the porch swing came a sleepy but triumphant voice. She said yes. Lily called, apparently not as deeply asleep as they'd thought. She scrambled down, running to throw her arms around them both as they laughed through happy tears. Under the summer stars, the 3 embraced a family finally complete, with nothing left unfinished between them.